Hello and welcome to another video game story time with me, Sky Fellowship, and today's episode is going to be about the very first time I saw 3D in video games. So, I only ever had access to a Super Nintendo as a kid, because that was the console that we had. We had like the Amiga and stuff like that, we had other ways to play games, and my at the time best friend had a Mega Drive, and my older brother one day came into the living room where me and my best friend at the time were, and he was like very excited, saying he's got something that was going to absolutely blow our minds. He had a PlayStation. I didn't know what it was. Apparently my friend at the time did, and he actually started to freak out as well. So he starts explaining what the PlayStation is, and he bought a bundle, and he opens the bundle up, and he got 3 games in it. And these were genuinely the very first 3 PlayStation games I ever played. We have Lemmings 3D, the one that's on now, and this was the very first 3D footage I actually saw. So what you're watching here, no joke, he got Mortal Kombat 3, the Gold Edition, which was in the worst case in the history of mankind. It was a cardboard sleeve that had a giant instruction booklet in it, and then the disc, and opening it was a nightmare because it created a vacuum, and we almost had to rip the thing getting the disc out, so we basically just had to keep the disc lying around for the most part. He refused to put that on, because as much as he was always into fighting games, he was always into Street Fighter, he always hated Mortal Kombat, now we kind of plays Mortal Kombat, but I was always into Mortal Kombat. My friend at the time really wasn't. He kind of started to get into it, because it was one of the only options we had to play, but he was mostly into, not that these games were out either, obviously, at the time, or that we had them, he was into 3D fighters, so Soul Blade, Battle Arena Shinden, anything like that on the PlayStation that we eventually got. He just was not into 2D fighters, but he ended up enjoying Mortal Kombat, which is good, because my brother was like, I can't stand Mortal Kombat, and why would I want to put this on? It's a 2D game, and I've just bought a 3D console. So it was a choice between Lemmings 3D and Ridge Racer. He put Ridge Racer on, I believe, to play it, and was not a fan at all. And none of us were ever actually that much of a fan of it. There's a lot of Ridge Racer games that I actually ended up starting to like, but the original ones just were not into them at all. So he ended up going for Lemmings 3D, and that video that you've just seen there was actually when I was in the room, and it was the first time I was able to actually see 3D, and I was blown away, as most people would be. Like, a lot of people's first 3D game is the likes of Mario 64, and mine was Lemmings 3D, followed closely by Ridge Racer. And it's one of those, you might have put Ridge Racer on for a few seconds, but I wasn't into racing games back then at all, and with the exception of Mario Kart. So I think while he was setting that up, I left the room, and he basically was like, I'll shout when I put Lemmings on, because I'd actually played Lemmings, and I used to love it. I used to play it on the Amiga, I used to play it on the Super Nintendo, so to suddenly get Lemmings in 3D, this game is not great. I'm going to lay that out right now. We didn't particularly love it back in the day, and it's one of those that, controller-wise, it hasn't really held up, and if you really love this formula and love Lemmings, then that's fine, but I was noticing pretty quickly that actually I'm growing out of games like this, and I was really struggling to focus on things, but because it was the only thing we had available, as much as I actually found it a little boring trying to come up with the solutions, I was still mesmerised by the fact that this was a 3-dimensional game. And this first level, it's not impressive. I kind of wish I could have set something up, but I'm not going to play through tons of footage on this, like tons of the game just to get some footage, I mean. So, essentially, I would set up, thank you, I would set up the virtual lemming mode, which you can do here, and I would actually just see what the lemmings see. Essentially, I'd walk through the levels, I'd set up a basic path and just leave it on, essentially, as quite literally a walking simulator, so I could actually experience the world in 3D, because at the time, this was breathtaking, even though there wasn't a lot of 3D. Like, a lot of this is kind of, calling this Lemmings 3D is kind of a bit of a misnomer, because there's a hell of a lot of 2D here. But for a kid in the 90s who'd never seen any form of 3D, to be able to just, like, go into this virtual lemmings mode and just walk around, essentially, even though I couldn't fully control walking around. But the fact that you can actually do this virtual lemming mode on different types of lemmings as well is really cool. I know it's not exactly the most interesting or anything like that, because it's just a blocker, but the fact that you could there's builders and there's pickaxes and there's diggers, and you could go into all of this and just see them doing it. It was really fucking cool. So yeah, this is definitely a short video. And I knew it was going to be a short video, because there's not much I can talk about fucking lemmings. There really isn't. I know there's a lot of people out there who probably could, but I, myself, personally, there's not a lot I could talk about lemmings. So, I'm going to say, until next time, I've been Sky Fellowship. I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day. And I hope this works, although I don't think it's going to work, because I know fine well I now can't do anything without lemmings, so I was trying to actually... Oh, there we go. Maybe that'll work. Ah, I didn't get it in time. I was just trying to see if I could do the 3D explosion thing, because I honestly can't remember if it lets you actually be a lemming as they explode. But yeah, until next time, I truly do hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!